Welcome back to the channel, coin lovers and collectors. Today, we're diving into the value of US coins from 1981. From the penny to the dollar, we'll cover what makes these coins special, how much they're worth today, and which ones could be hiding real treasures in your collection. Let's get started. In 1981, the US Mint produced a full set of circulating coins, Lincoln cent, penny, ***, made of copper-plated zinc, but 1981 was one of the last years before the full switch to zinc in 1982, Jefferson nickel ***, still featuring Monticello on the reverse. Roosevelt dime ***, a copper-nickel-clad coin, replacing the old 90% silver dimes from earlier decades. Washington quarter ***, another copper-nickel-clad coin. Kennedy half-dollar ***, produced mostly for collectors by this time, with very few actually circulating. Susan B. Anthony dollar ***. 1981 was the last year the Mint produced these until 1999, making them very interesting to collectors. For most coins from 1981, if they're circulated, they're still only worth face value. 1 cent, 5 cents, 10 cents, a quarter, 50 cents, or $1. That's because billions of these coins were minted. But here's where it gets interesting. Coins in uncirculated condition, proof sets, or with mint errors can be worth much more. Let's start with the 1981 penny. Most of them are only worth 1 cent in circulated condition. However, in uncirculated condition, especially those graded MS65 or higher, they can sell for $1 to $5, but here's the real prize: proof coins and error coins. For example, a 1981 penny with a double die error can bring collectors $50 or more depending on the severity and condition. Now, let's talk about the 1981 Susan B. Anthony dollar. This is where things get really interesting. The 1981 SBA dollar wasn't released widely for circulation. Most were struck only for collector sets. That means finding one in your pocket change today is very rare. A regular 1981 SBA dollar is worth about $1.25 to $3 depending on condition, but uncirculated or proof examples can go for $10 to $20. The real gems are the proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. Those can reach $50 or even $100, depending on grade. Next up, the 1981 Kennedy half-dollar. By the 1980s, very few half-dollars were being used in daily transactions, so most ended up in collector rolls or mint sets. Circulated versions are usually only worth 50 cents, but uncirculated ones can bring in $2 to $5. The real value lies in the proof issues, especially the 1981 S-Type 2 proof, which can fetch $30 to $50 from collectors. For the 1981 nickel, dime, and quarter, circulated examples are still worth their face value. But in pristine condition, MS65 or higher, they can bring anywhere from $1 to $10. Proofs and errors, once again, are where the value really kicks in. What makes 1981 coins especially collectible is that it was the last year the US Mint struck Susan B. Anthony dollars until nearly 2 decades later. That alone makes 1981 sets more desirable to collectors. While most 1981 coins won't make you rich, finding them in high grades, proof sets, or with unique errors can add real value to your collection. So, how much are US coins from 1981 worth? For most, just their face value. But for the smart collector, proof sets, uncirculated coins, and error varieties can be worth tens or even hundreds of dollars. Always check your change and keep an eye out for those rare finds. Anthony dollar, condition plays the biggest role in determining value. Let's break it down. First, let's start with circulated coins. These are the coins that have been used in everyday transactions, passed through hands, pockets, and cash registers for decades. For 1981 coins, circulated condition usually means worn details on the design, especially faces and lettering, scratches or contact RKS faded luster, that original shine is gone, and this condition, most 1981 coins, whether it's the penny, nickel, dime, quarter, half-dollar, or even the Susan B. Anthony dollar, are typically worth only their face value. Next, we have uncirculated coins, also known as mint state coins. These are coins that were never used in circulation and still have their original luster. Grading services like PCGS and NGC assign a number from MS60 to MS70 to describe the quality. For example, an MS60 coin may have marks or dull luster, but it's still uncirculated. NMS 65 coin has strong luster and only minor flaws. These are highly collectible. NMS 70 coin is perfect, with no visible flaws under magnification, extremely rare. For 1981 coins, uncirculated examples can jump in value. A penny that's only worth 1 cent in circulation could be worth $3 to $5 in MS65. A quarter could be worth $10 or more. And the 1981 Kennedy half-dollar or Susan B. Anthony dollar in high mint state could fetch $20, $30, or even more depending on rarity. Now let's talk about proof coins. These are not circulation coins. They were made especially for collectors. Proof coins are struck with specially polished dies, giving them a mirror-like background and frosted designs. In 1981, the U.S. Mint struck proof coins at the San Francisco Mint, marked with the S Mint mark. These proof coins are much more valuable than their circulation counterparts. For example, a 1981 S-proof penny can be worth $5 to $15. A 1981 S-proof quarter can reach $20 or more, and the most famous, the 1981 S-type 2 proof Susan B. Anthony dollar, can sell for $50 to $100, sometimes higher in perfect condition. One more thing about condition. Even error coins from 1981 depend on condition for value. A double die, off-center strike, or misprint might already be valuable, but in high grade, those same errors can multiply in value. For example, an error penny in circulated condition might sell for $20, while the same error in mint state could bring hundreds of dollars. So when it comes to 1981 U.S. coins, condition is everything. Circulated coins are usually worth face value, but uncirculated coins, proof issues, and error varieties can sell for many times their face value. That's why it's always important to check your coins carefully, protect them properly, and, if possible, get them graded by a professional service. In 1981, the Lincoln Memorial Cent was still being struck in copper. Each coin contained 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing 3.11 grams. This was one of the last years of the traditional copper cent. Just a year later, in 1982, the U.S. Mint would switch to the copper-plated zinc penny that we still use today. So, when you hold a 1981 penny, you're holding one of the final chapters of America's true copper cents, a design that had been in use since 1959, with Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Moving on, the Jefferson nickel, Roosevelt dime, and Washington quarter of 1981 carried on with their familiar designs. By this time, silver was long gone from circulation coins. The last circulating 90% silver dimes and quarters were struck in 1964. The 1981 dime and quarter were made of copper-nickel clad, just like the coins we use today. However, what makes them interesting is that these coins were struck in massive quantities to keep up with inflation and high circulation demand during the early 1980s. The Kennedy half-dollar was still in production in 1981, but by this point, it was rarely seen in circulation. Banks and businesses didn't request many half-dollars, so most of the 1981 halves went directly into collector rolls and bags. They were made of copper-nickel clad, with the last 40% silver halves struck back in 1970. Still, the design carried historical weight: John F. Kennedy's portrait on the obverse, and the presidential seal on the reverse. Perhaps the most historic coin of 1981 was the Susan B. Anthony dollar. First introduced in 1979, this was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical woman instead of an allegorical figure like Liberty. Why 1981? However, the coin was already considered a failure. Its small size and similarity to the quarter made it confusing in circulation. As a result, very few people actually used them. What makes the 1981 issue special is that it was struck only for collectors. No Susan B. Anthony dollars from 1981 were released into everyday circulation. This makes them scarcer than the 1979 or 1980 issues and highly collectible today. In 1981, coins were struck at 3 main mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; San Francisco, S mint mark. The San Francisco Mint produced proof coins, specially made for collectors with mirror-like surfaces. And in 1981, something unusual happened. The proof coins came in 2 varieties, known as Type 1 and Type 2 mint marks. The Type 2 proof coins, with a clearer S mint mark, are far scarcer and command much higher values today. The early 1980s were a time of economic struggle in the United States. Inflation was high, unemployment was a major concern, and the value of silver and gold was swinging wildly. This context helps explain why the U.S. Mint struck coins in such large numbers. ensuring there was always enough circulating currency for daily life. At the same time, collectors were growing more interested in proof sets, mint sets, and error coins. The Mint's decision to strike limited 1981 Susan B. Anthony dollars only for collectors reflects this shift. So, the coins of 1981 tell a story: the end of the copper penny era, the ongoing presence of classic designs like Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Washington, the collector-only Susan B. Anthony dollar, and the fascinating proof varieties from San Francisco. They may not be the rarest coins in U.S. history, but they represent an important moment in American coinage, balancing tradition, economic change, and a touch of innovation. Thanks for watching.